Mr. Speaker, one of the key tenets of House Republicans' commitment to America was restoring our nation's safety and security. That means passing a strong and fiscally responsible National Defense Authorization Act, otherwise known as the NDAA, which is our country's primary legislation authorizing spending levels and providing substantive policy directives for the United States Armed Forces and the Department of Defense. Thankfully, that's exactly what House Republicans will be doing this week when we consider and pass the fiscal year 24 NDAA. The NDAA for the coming year being considered by the House this week includes many priorities and provisions that Middle Tennesseans can be proud to support. For starters, it ends the radical woke ideologies being forced on our service members by prohibiting funding for teaching critical race theory. It repeals the authorization for the Department of Defense's unnecessary Chief Diversity Officer and eliminates funding for drag shows and similar events. Along with these common sense measures that passed the House Armed Services Committee by a 48-1 vote, the National Defense Authorization Act gives our military the tools they need to counter the Chinese Communist Party's aggression, increases oversight of the Biden administration after their disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, and saves taxpayers $40 billion by cutting inefficient defense programs, obsolete weapon systems, and unnecessary Pentagon bureaucracy. All in all, I believe this bill contains good provisions that return our military's focus back on readiness and the defense of our nation, not wokeness and progressive posturing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't disagree more with my distinguished colleague who just spoke. Even with 1,500 proposed amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act, it remains a disgrace. The majority talks big about cutting money, but they fail on some of the most fundamental opportunities. They reject common sense solutions and have failed to support meaningful cost-saving reforms. They've held the global economy hostage over spending levels, but I hope they will take advantage yet to make some adjustments, including my amendment with Representatives McGovern and Garamendi to end the wasteful funding of the outdated, ineffective B-83-1 bomber that the 2022 defense posture laid out. It was unnecessary and wasteful. If they wanted to get serious about addressing spending levels, we should stop wasting taxpayer dollars on weapons that don't work, on ships the Navy doesn't want, and nuclear weapons that are outdated and increasingly costly to maintain. Adding even more money to an all-time record defense spending regime does nothing to improve American security or strengthening our allies, including the valiant Ukrainians, in a fight for their very survival. At a time of renewed security threats to the United States, a war raging in Ukraine, tensions in Asia and the Pacific, so much controversy over government spending, this legislation falls so painfully short of the mark. It's funding of battleships that don't work, after spending billions to develop the Freedom-class littoral combat ships that marked their initial run with engine failures. The Navy doesn't want them. Retiring them would save $4.3 billion over the next 5 years. But Republicans continue to protect it to have jobs in Florida. This bill leaves unfinished business in the work of protecting our troops, their families, and their neighborhoods from military toxins and explosives. Congress has long failed to make UXO and toxin cleanup a priority, and our servicemen and the civilians continue to pay the price. The United States is the largest energy consumer in the world. We should be focusing on ways to make them even more energy efficient. The Department of Defense has appropriately been a leader in clean energy and water protection, disaster preparation. These are not arts and crafts projects. It's all about readiness. Improving efficiency and energy resilience makes our troops safer and saves critical money. The newly empowered Republican majority has decided to throw money at mismanaged priorities in terms of taking the culture wars to the Department of Defense, stripping away protections and programs that deal with the diversity of our military. Social issues are defense issues, and the continued onslaught of restrictions against people of color, those who are LGBTQ, or whose health care is under attack, causes America to use potential service members we need most. We're not meeting our recruitment objectives now, and taking the culture wars against the Department of Defense, fighting against diversity, makes us less ready. Recruitment and retention are serious challenges plaguing their military, and the Republican attacks on those they don't like makes us more vulnerable. These are honorable people, and the military needs them. The good news is that most of the sideshow we'll be dealing with today and into the night will never be enacted into law. But making these attacks and forcing these votes on readiness is not harmless. Even though they're ineffective, does not mean that damage is not being made. Look at the charade from Alabama's junior senator, paralyzing the order function of the military command structure over an ill-advised, unpopular, wrong-headed crusade against giving American military personnel the health care they deserve. Denial of health care is another way we're driving qualified people out of the military. It's a travesty to deny them the same option, for instance, for medical cannabis that Americans enjoy in most states. With so many of our veterans, service members suffering from wounds visible and hidden, the record is clear that medical cannabis can be transformative. It will help our service members save money, improve the quality of their care. I'm pleased that my colleague Brian Mast and I have been able to develop bipartisan legislation to remedy this situation. And I hope this Congress will relent and allow us to enact it. While I disagree with the spending priorities and the massive increase in spending, I remain impressed with our men and women in uniform, and from the brave recruits to the senior officers. They reflect so much about what is good about America. We should embrace our responsibilities for today and into the future by respecting the differences and strengthening opportunities to serve in our armed forces. We have a duty to them and our national security to do so.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for years, Americans have watched on their televisions or read in their newspapers and seen the FBI constantly in the headlines, and not for the good. Under Director Christopher Wray's leadership, the FBI has become weaponized, and the American people's trust in the institution has been severely damaged. We've seen the agency launch an entirely unwarranted investigation against Donald Trump to prove non-existent collusion with Russia. We've seen the agency use the Steele dossier to abuse the FISA process and spy on conservatives. We've seen the agency label parents concerned about what their children are learning in schools in Northern Virginia as domestic terrorists. And we've seen the agency target whistleblowers who expose corrupt behavior and political bias. We've seen the agency target Catholics in Richmond, Virginia, who are simply exercising their First Amendment right to express their faith. The Republican-led House Judiciary Committee is demanding that Director Wray accept responsibility for the agency's abusive overreach of power, and the Appropriations Committee is taking action, using the power of the purse to rein in the abuses that have occurred in this agency. There is no place for politics within the FBI, and we will not stop working to bring an end to this weaponization of our law enforcement agencies and the use of these agencies against law-abiding Americans. Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize the Glenver High School men's tennis team on winning the Class II state title. This victory marks the program's first championship since 1996. By training hard to ensure that they are at their best and encouraging each other, the Highlanders left it all on the courts and dominated the Bruton Pumas. These talented young men include Blaine Bishop, Alec McElwain, Marco Gustafson, Logan Garner, Beckett Wilkinson, and Ian Kelly. Leaving the singles match, the Highlanders were out to a strong 4-2 lead, needing just one more win to get the state title. Blaine Bishop, alongside his doubles partner Alex McElwain, clinched the championship after Bishop dominated the Pumas doubles team, securing the championship for the Highlanders. For the last 3 seasons, head coach Bob Haney has brought the team together, becoming not just teammates, but a family they can rely on both on and off the court. Congratulations again to the Glenver High School men's tennis team, to parents, faculty, and staff on this incredible achievement. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes.
Here's a heartbreaking fact, Mr. Speaker, about the reality of war. Every single day in our country, about 17 veterans die by suicide. That's 17 families whose lives will never be the same. I'm thinking of one of our mothers in the 12th Congressional District, Lisa Hicks Clayton, who mourns her son Damon every day. We must work harder than ever to ensure that no veteran is left behind, and those serving in our military receive the mental health support that they need to survive. We know that our service members face mental health crises that are heightened by their experiences at war. The forever wars, Mr. Speaker, of the past decades have left behind immense trauma. And far too often, our own government and this Congress fails to provide our service members and veterans with the support they need and deserve. If we cannot provide the necessary care and support of our service members and veterans, then we should not be sending them off to war. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline offers free confidential support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for those experiencing a mental health crisis or contemplating suicide. Veterans can use this new option by dialing 988 and pressing 1 to contact the Veterans Crisis Line. We must break the stigma surrounding mental health issues and create an environment where our veterans and service members feel supported by asking for help. My amendment ensures that information about 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is posted in common sense locations to maximize awareness about this life-saving resource among our service members. I urge my colleagues to please support this amendment. Suicide prevention should not be a partisan issue. If you're a veteran or a service member in crisis, please reach out for the support you need. You are not alone. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the achievement and historic accomplishment of these wonderful young people, part of the Heroes Alliance Vehicle Technology Team. These group of high school students from our district just won the 2022 National Solar Car Challenge within their division. Heroes Alliance was founded in 2009 by the late Pastor Reggie Lane, who established the organization to engage and create opportunities for underserved youth in Detroit. This vision now is being led by the dynamic Anika Smith. And right now, these young people are going to Texas to drive the vehicle from Texas to California and competing in the 2023 national competition. The Heroes Alliance is a STEM program that challenges students to develop innovative technology focusing on renewable energy and automotive engineering. And today the project serves as a capstone for students who participate in the Heroes Alliance Cooperative Learning Center, which utilizes vehicle technology for the basis of bringing together education, innovation, and industry as students work together to design and engineer a solar vehicle. I'm so proud of these hard-working, talented young group of people from various schools all across the city of Detroit and want to congratulate them on their achievements. Please join me in recognizing them as we also cheer them on to victory. Today, I want to recognize Mother Patricia Pat Braxton, as we call her, Mother Pat, a legacy of our community. She celebrates 75 years of life. And all the years I've known Mother Pat, she has been an active public servant and advocate. Her passion for our local and global community shines through in everything she does. She's known as not only as the monarch of her family, but also as a mentor for many women of color serving in public service. She is one of our legacy legends of the O'Hare Park community, and we absolutely adore her. Mother Pat never shies away from a challenge, Mr. Speaker. Her compassion and kindness towards others had a lasting impact on those around her, including myself. We are grateful for her tireless energy and outstanding example. Please join me in recognizing Mother Pat Braxton for her advocacy, hard work, and dedication as we celebrate 75 years of life. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Norman, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When John Tang was earning his doctoral degree in physics at Georgia Tech in 1999, he never imagined that some 20 years later, he would be heading the fourth largest American newspaper by subscription count. At the time, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, had just started persecuting the spiritual discipline Falun Gong, practiced at the time by roughly 1 in every 12 Chinese. People would practice these slow-moving exercises in the morning in parks before going to work. Just like any other persecution campaign by the CCP, the regime relied on the media it controlled, both the state media and the private media, to demonize and isolate the group. In an attempt to demonize Falun Gong and to justify its persecution, the media played nonstop hate propaganda attacking this peaceful mediation group. John, who had immigrated to the United States, watched from afar in horror as friends were persecuted for their beliefs. John decided to take action. Despite having no experience or investment, he started Zhejiangyun, the Chinese edition of the Epoch Times, in the basement of the home in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. John was driven by a wish to provide uncensored information to not only people in China, but to people around the world. Soon, other Chinese Americans left their well-paying jobs to help John with this seemingly impossible endeavor. The Epoch Times' first reporting group was established in China in the year 2000, covering key events with a main focus on the CCP's human rights abuses. The CCP, however, sees any kind of independent reporting on its brutal human rights abuses as a threat. Within a few months, Chinese police raided the underground newsrooms, arresting every reporter and every editor. They were in prison, specifically Zhang Yuhui and Xi Xiaoping, who received sentences of 10 years where they faced frequent torture. The Epoch Times China operation went underground, yet the Chinese edition quickly became a leading website on Chinese current events with millions of readers. Its print newspaper is now distributed nationwide as well as in 30 other countries around the world. Every day, many Chinese break through the CCP's internet firewall to read the Epoch Times website. All this has not been easy. Since the newspaper founding, the CCP has waged a non-stop campaign to totally destroy it. The party has threatened the newspaper's advertisers. They have launched incessant cyber attacks on its website and its IT systems, and have threatened relatives of staff members back in China. The harassment has not been limited just to China. In 2006, the home of then Chief Engineer Peter Lee was broken into by assailants who tied him to a chair and beat him before stealing 2 computers. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong in 2019, assailants started a fire in the newspaper's printing press. And in 2021, armed men entered the building and used sledgehammers to smash printing equipment. The Epoch Times also inspired the Tui Dang, which means the Quit the CCP movement. As a result of the Epoch Times publications of these special series, 9 commentaries on the Communist Party, which provides the most thorough interview to date of the true nature of the CCP, more than 410 million Chinese people and counting have sought to sever their membership in this party and the affiliated organizations. Realizing that the CCP had put enormous effort into infiltrating the United States of America, especially media organizations, resulting in many U.S. media carrying the communist regime's propaganda, the Epoch Times launched in English in 2003 and started a print edition in New York in 2004. The Epoch Times independent reporting has attracted a large readership in the United States, now ranking as the 4th largest newspaper in the country by subscriber count. Its website is read by tens of millions of people every month, every day. Just like its Chinese companion, the Epoch Times prides itself in being independent and serving the interest of the readers. Under its slogan, Truth and Tradition, the Epoch Times adheres to the best practices and highest principles of journalism and seeks to highlight the best of humanity to inspire people. The Epoch Times now has editions published in 36 countries and in 22 different languages. Folks, this is all about one word: freedom. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Slotkin, for 5 minutes.